Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Incontrera, the Content Marketing Manager for 6 Month Smiles. And tonight we have a special webinar from Compassionate Finance and one of our own clinical instructors, Dr. Michelle Hedgecock. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Chris Webb from Compassionate Finance, and he is going to take it away with tonight's program.
Hey, thanks, Stephen, and welcome everyone. We really appreciate this time and looking forward to talking with everyone. We'll probably spend 15 to 20 minutes walking through some information, and obviously there's a question format there that you can type us a question. We will attempt to answer those as we go if possible. Just to let you know, the webinar is also being recorded, and we'll have this available for future use as well. So first of all, I would like to I'd like to introduce and welcome Dr. Michelle Hedgecock. Dr. Hedgecock was born in Houston. Many of you may know of Dr. Hedgecock because she is a clinical instructor for 6 Month Smiles, but she was born in Houston and grew up in the big city of Danbury, Texas. That was a joke. She attended Texas A&M University, though, where she studied biomedical science and minored in business. In her junior year at A&M, she was accepted early into dental school, where she graduated magna cum laude. She also received the Award for Excellence in Clinical Dentistry and the American Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry Student Award of Merit. She is also a graduate of the Coy Center. And as many of you may know from coming to seminars, Dr. Hedgecock has a passion for helping patients really achieve the straight and confident smiles that they've always wanted with 6 Month Smiles, having completed more cases than any other 6 Month Smile dentist in Central Texas. She's also, as we mentioned, a clinical instructor. So we're really excited to have Dr. Hedgecock, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So the first thing we want to talk about is we're really going to set up 3 objectives for ourselves. First of all, we're going to discuss the challenges that are faced by practices and the challenges faced by patients that we see every day. The second objective we have is to really discuss how does compassionate finance, which some of you may be familiar, many of you may not be familiar with compassionate finance, but how does it differ from the traditional financing that we may have been offering in our offices for the past few years. And finally, we're going to discuss why should I even offer compassionate finance? What benefits does it offer me, and does it offer for my patients? So with the first objective that we talked about is the challenges. So you guys are faced with challenges every day, and let's discuss what some of those may look like. So first of all, we see it, and we see the advertising. There's all of the reduced fees that you guys are being faced with through insurance, old financing methods, things like that. Dr. Hedgecock, I think, has some thoughts as well. With patients, actually, y'all see it every day. They turn down the treatment that they need. So you guys really don't have the opportunity to help those patients. We also hear from offices that there's a lot of stress associated with the cost conversation. What does that look like in your office, Dr. Hedgecock? I know there's a lot of stress when it's just there's stress associated for whoever's presenting treatment, but also the patient, correct?
Yeah, since I'm very interested in cosmetic dentistry and being a graduate of the Coy Center, I like to focus more on comprehensive dentistry. We do some full mouth rehabilitations and a lot of bigger cases. And, I think one of the hardest things for dentists is to go in the room and ask these patients for big ticket items. You hear patients say things like, oh, I'm buying your yacht or sending you on a vacation. And it's just really kind of stressful. It feels like, we're not valued. And I think for me, being able to have a tool to kind of avoid that awkward moment with patients, it's been really helpful for me. So I'm not actually, on my bigger cases, I do go over the bigger numbers, but I start out to try to get the patient's guard down, because what I find is patients are so sensitive to prices and costs that they're coming in the door already with a sour taste in their mouth and kind of like, oh, how much is this going to cost kind of thing. And so I kind of nip that in the bud from the start. What we do is, before the patient even asks me how much it's going to cost, I'll typically tell the patient, here's what you need, here's why you need it, here's basically the risks of not doing the treatment. And then I'll say, we offer a lot of payment options in our office to help you be able to afford the care that you need to receive. And so what we do here is we actually can set up payment plans for you to make it affordable within your budget. How does that sound to you? And to me, the more you can get the patient shaking their head yes and agreeing to what you're saying, the more likely they're going to go through with actually signing up for the treatment. So in my office, that's all I say. I don't go a lot into the total cost of everything. I just tell them basically we're going to set up a payment option for them, and that allows them to kind of start thinking about what they can afford on a monthly basis. And then my treatment coordinator or my assistants, who are also trained to go in the room and discuss pricing, are the ones that are giving them the options that we have. We do offer some in-office financing where we're not charging interest for the patients, but these are typically a shorter span. I think our maximum that we typically do is a 4-month payment, and those are automatically drafted by our office. But a lot of people, when you start talking about, $5,000, $10,000, and then you're talking $30,000, $40,000 for these major cases, these patients don't have that much money saved up. So what this has allowed us to do is basically give them a plan so that they know, hey, I can actually afford this. It's just going to take me some time to pay it off, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. In most dental offices, they offer 1 or 2 financing options. And once you get past those 1 or 2, it's just a challenge. And to put some numbers and kind of move into, let's put ourselves in the put the patient, put the hat on as the patient, right? So if you think about these patients from a numbers standpoint, the average citizen in the United States has $4,400 in their bank. That's savings and checking. And a lot of times we may be presenting cases that are more than they have in the bank. So they really do want payment options. And if you can show them a payment plan that works for their budget, then they're more likely to be able to receive the treatment that they really need. The other thing that I know that you guys hear, Dr. Hedgecock, is, they'll turn down treatment just based on, as you mentioned, the affordability issue. And what are some of the things you hear? We hear things like, well, what will insurance cover? Well, can we just do that? You hear things like that as well?
Yeah, I think that unfortunately patients are geared towards insurance, and it's a huge issue just because people are so used to their medical insurance. And, once you reach a maximum, then the insurance will cover a lot more. The way we explain insurance to our patients is we tell them, hey, this is not like medical insurance. You basically can consider this a coupon towards your dental treatment, and that's all you're going to get. And if you don't use it, the coupon expires at the end of the year, and you'll get a new coupon for next year. But what I typically go into is I'm very, very risk-based in my discussions with my patients, because I feel like if they understand here's the risks of not doing this treatment, they will tend to realize kind of what the purpose of it and the kind of urgency of the treatment. So insurance is an issue. I'm very lucky because I'm a fee-for-service practice, but I do feel like I get a lot of patients that are very insurance-driven. And so a lot of times we'll actually take the patient's insurance payment towards the procedure as part of the down payment. And that's really helpful in pushing people to start treatment too, because that's not that huge cost coming out of their pocket initially.
Yeah, and if you just offer or have those limited, financing options within an office, you have many patients, they may be denied approval, first of all. And even if they are approved, it may not be a payment plan that they can afford, which makes it doubly challenging for the patients. There's been a lot of research done by the ADA and a lot of different companies, and what you find is, contrary to what we sometimes believe, patients are willing to pay for quality care. They just want it to be affordable. They're looking for affordability, and in many cases, affordability is more important than cost. So let's discuss, how is compassionate finance different than traditional financing options? So on the left-hand side, you see, and you guys face this every day, many patients may not qualify for the traditional third-party financing. And even if they do, so let's say we have a 6-month Smiles case, and whatever the cost that you're charging within your office, but many of these cases may be $4,000 or $5,000. Well, I may be approved for that, but if I'm getting 12 months deferred interest, well, I still can't afford the $400 or $500 per month. So even if I'm approved, it's really not affordable within my budget. So how does compassionate finance work? You can have 100% of the patients qualify, and you can share with them that if they have a checking account in good standing, then they'll be able to qualify for a payment plan, because the first thing that's different about compassionate finance is it's not a credit card. Compassionate finance bases the approval for a patient on their banking history. And that's really important, because you find a lot of these patients out there, regardless of their credit score, they're paying their bills every month, they're paying their phone bill, they're paying their cable bill, and so that tells you, are they payment worthy? In addition to that, the office is in control of the terms, how long a patient gets to pay, but compassionate finance will go out for 60 months. So what that allows every patient to do is to find a payment plan that works within their budget. And the important thing is, as a practitioner, you receive the down payment from the patient that day. You determine what that down payment is. We just recommend that you cover your hard cost. And then we draft the patient's bank account through ACH bank drafts each month with interest and deposit that into your account. That allows you to treat more patients with comprehensive care, but it also, over time, will create a consistent monthly cash flow as these patients are coming in. It's important to know, are people going to pay? The first question we get is, are they going to pay? Well, when you base it upon their banking history, I can tell you over the last 7 years, 97% of the patients paid to term. Now that 3% doesn't mean they didn't pay anything. They paid hard cost, and if it was $2,000 treatment plan, they may have paid $1,000 or $800 or $1,200. But 97% of the patients pay to term. So you're going to get paid, and importantly, they're going to get the care that they need. So how does it work? We send you everything that you need to be successful, configure you within your state to receive payments. You essentially, it's done on an iPad. It takes seconds to get the approval. It's done chairside. But the practice presents the treatment. The practice conducts the treatment for the patient. And then compassionate finance takes care of everything from there. This slide will just give you a summary. We provide and manage all aspects of that loan. We draft the patient's bank account each month and deposit that into your account. We provide all of the customer service. As far as the patients are concerned, their loan is managed by Compassionate Finance, so you're not the bad guy. And our technology will work those accounts if they do fall behind with emails, text messages, and phone calls. So let me go back there. Dr. Hedgecock, now you guys have experience with this. How has this worked within your office? What's been the impact upon your staff? How's Compassionate Finance worked for you guys from a system standpoint?
Well, the biggest piece for me is these loans are out of our hands once they're agreed upon. I think one of the hardest things for my staff is to call and ask people and send out collections letters, and it's just all this extra time. But also the patients get annoyed too if you're calling about balances. I think for us, the biggest piece of it is the bad guy part that you mentioned, because when we're not the ones calling the patient to collect the money, even though technically we are technically the bank loaning them the money, compassionate finance does everything for you. So when the patient doesn't pay, they're calling and texting, and they also don't do what Care Credit does, which they actually charge the patient back interest on all of their 12 months if they don't pay for it, by that end of the loan period. And so that's something I really like about compassionate finance, is because they try to help the patients stay with their payments, and that also helps us as well. And then the other piece of it is that we're collecting, an extra $7,000 on average per month into the bank account. That is, not money that we necessarily are counting towards what we need for collections that month, because we've already collected our hard costs up front on these patients. So it's been a nice little chunk of change to put it like in the savings for equipment that we want, or just our cushion that we need in case something goes wrong. So there's actually like a lot of pieces about it that have made things a lot better for our practice.
That's great. Let's talk about, in summary, and then we'll talk about some numbers from Dr. Hedgecock's practice. So, in summary, the things that we've talked about is, if you can make their dental care, if you can treat these patients who are coming in for 6-month smiles, you really will have increased case acceptance, as anyone that uses compassionate finance will tell you. In addition, importantly, it really removes the need to reduce fees. You don't have to compete on price. You have greater confidence and reduced stress around that cost conversation. As Dr. Hedgecock mentioned in the beginning, you're able to perform more comprehensive treatments. And really the key is, if you can give patients flexible payment options that they can afford, they say yes to treatment. The affordability is important though, because affordability doesn't mean cheap. It doesn't mean reducing fees. It means giving patients the option that they can pay to get the treatment that they truly want and desire. So let's take down the question of, this is a case study, am I going to get paid? I think you guys have heard, you get to use your high-end dental technology that you guys have invested in. More patients say yes. The interesting thing is, we're drafting the patient's bank account and through ACH bank drafts each month with interest. So what does that mean? What do you collect? Well, in Dr. Hedgecock's case, which is very typical, the earnings payout has been 117% of usual and customary fees. So if you look over the past, what's it been, Dr. Hedgecock, 3-4 years or so?
Yeah, I think it's been about 4 years.
Mm-hmm. So over the last 4 years, they have financed $394,000 in treatment, right? That's a lot of treatment that they financed. As she mentioned, we recommend you cover your hard cost with the down payment. So they received $55,800 in down payments for a total amount of treatment that you were able to do of $448,000. So has she been paid? So far, principal and interest, they've collected $317,000. They're also due another $206,000 that we're collecting and depositing into their account. So on that total amount of work, they are set to collect $523,000. That's the amount. Now, you're not doing this every day. The average loan amount these guys have is $2,900, and it averages 2 new loans per month. Now, Dr. Hedgecock, you've had some folks that didn't pay, right? So what's your feelings about that, and how's that worked within your office? Because everyone's going to have that.
Yeah, I think it's, in the beginning, very gut-wrenching to see that somebody is not paying. But once you actually look at the numbers and realize how this works, it's a no-brainer. So first of all, I want to say that, we haven't been able to determine who is and who isn't going to pay. We've had almost everyone pay. We've had very few defaults, because what this collection rate of 117% means is after all of our fees that we pay to Compassionate Finance, after, you know, all of the defaults that we've had, and the money that's been written off as uncollectible, we're collecting 117%. So I just like to make a comparison with that, with what happens when you do something like Care Credit. Yes, you have the money up front, but they're taking 10% off of the top. So then you start thinking about your overhead and all of those things. And it's really, I don't even tell patients that I'm doing Care Credit anymore. If they want to do it and they have it, we'll take it. But in my opinion, you know, my costs are what they are for a reason. And so to be able to collect over what my fees are is really awesome. And, you know, yes, there are a few people that don't pay, but we've had excellent credit patients that default, and we've had really bad ones default. We haven't had a lot, but what I'm saying is that it's really hard to predict who's actually not going to pay, just because so many people go through hardships and difficult times in their life, whether it's illness, divorce, those types of things where they're struggling financially and it affects their credit. You know, having the option to just look at the bank account and have Compassionate Finance help you decide whether or not someone would be a good candidate for the loan is really, really helpful. But we really, you know, we don't even miss a step anymore when we have something fall off, because we just know that every month we're collecting a lot more than what we actually spent for costs, but also what we actually would have collected had the patient paid out of pocket even. But then we're thinking about, this is, you know, $448,000 worth of treatment that would not have gotten done, because these patients who typically do these Compassionate Finance loans, they don't have the money to be able to make shorter payment terms. And so those are people that never would have gotten it, or they would have gone down the road, you know, to Castle Dental or something like that. And so this has been really, really awesome for my practice, and it's done nothing but help us gain extra production and also help our patients get the treatment that they need.